Anyway, having said this, I would give my fellow panelists a quick minute to introduce themselves, because we are talking about the role of the data centers and actually the segmentation maybe to meet the future demand in the Mediterranean and African region, but also to focus on the capacity as a whole. And I think the message should be here. Where do we stand today? Are we making some steps ahead, or what would be the steps ahead? The panel session is sponsored by Equinix, and we only have 3 people of Equinix sitting here. So thank you so much. So I'll give you, please, the words and the honors to introduce yourself to the audience. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting us. And we are Equinix, and we are 3, and it's for a reason. My name is Eulalia Flo. I go also by Lala, if for the ones that are not able to pronounce Eulalia.
Lala?
Yes. I will explain the story later. And I am the managing director in Equinix in Spain. And I am here with my peers from Italy and from Portugal. Carlos, you have already met him, because this view that we have, the Mediterranean connection, and how we can help customers to drive their business. So I don't know if Luis, I come back to you.
Sure. Well, you heard me as my Afrix Telecom hat, my Medusa hat. Now I'll introduce myself as the Barcelona Cable Landing Station hat. And from then on, I'll carry on once we get deeper into the conversation.
Thank you.
I am from Barcelona too.
Okay, so thank you so much, both of you. Emmanuel?
So I'm Emmanuel Becker. I'm a French guy living in Italy, MD for Equinix in Italy, and I'm president of IDA, which is Italian Data Center Association.
A French guy in Italy.
Nobody's perfect.
Well, I believe today everybody already knows me. So joining my peers, representing this side of the Iberia.
Thank you, Carlos, and of course, welcome to the show, like everybody else. So, Alfonso, great honor having you.
Thank you. So, Afonso Salema, I'm CEO of Start Campus. For those who don't know, Start Campus is developing a 495 megawatt hyperscale campus in Sinij, which will carry some weight on the discussion today.
Thank you. And Aki, please.
Yes, Aki Julius, Senior Partner at Cambridge Management Consulting. We're not only doing telecoms, but all pros of scope in the digital transformation, people, processes, technology, and yeah, my main role is in the submarine. Until beginning of this year, I was also heading the data center practice, but now we have a new guy taking some workload of me, which I'm quite happy. He just joined us from CBRE, but also I was pretty close to be Equinix as well, since my background goes to Telecity, and I was heading up the sales in Finland back in the days. But I managed to escape about 1 year before and went into subsea cables.
So Carlos and Lala, anyway, you should be so glad, right? Aki, as always, fantastic having you here, because from a consultant point of view, from Cambridge Management, it's always good to have, let's say, in helicopter view on the business, because normally everybody has his own, let's say, vision and strategy from his perspective company, which is logical, which is normal. But to have people, on the panel as well, providing you, the audience as well, sometimes even, throwing in a curveball or saying, listen, guys, but maybe, it's different or whatever. So that makes the panel discussion a bit more lively and funky, I hope. So you'll be the judge of it, huh? And then not me, you'll be. So thank you so much. And please participate as much as you can, because we're going to do this as interactive as possible. So thank you, panelists, for being here. Now, Carlos, to start with you, in this knowledge sharing session, we are spotlighting the Mediterranean region. So what role does the Med region play in the global interconnection? And maybe others can join in.
Okay, thank you for the question. Basically, it's really an ecosystem, and we cannot really separate parts of it. It really works as a very aligned machine. And if you look at the maps not too long ago, usually transatlantic come to London area, coming to Lisbon, going around the Iberian Peninsula, and going on the east direction. Currently, you are seeing more and more bridges being built between Bordeaux and Marseille, between Bordeaux and Genoa, between Bilbao and Barcelona, between Lisbon and Barcelona, between Sines, Madrid and Barcelona. So
Why is that? Why is that?
I believe you already have quite interesting alternatives using the terrestrial route that you didn't have before. So, and if you look at cables, old cables like CMU-3, it goes around. If you go for CMU-4, 5, or 6 in some months, you know that it will reach only that side, and it will cross using terrestrial to all the cables on this side. So in our view in Equinix, we really identify these prime locations as the areas where we think new cables will need to have opportunities to land. Also, from a standpoint of, for instance, in Marseille and all the area, redundancy is being quite a debate. So once more, Barcelona and Genova are quite nice alternatives to really increase the security of crossing in that area. From this side, Lisbon is really the end point for everything going on the west coast of Africa. Portugal is in the best position, as I presented this morning, to really serve all the South Atlantic, being straight down or going really on the direction of Brazil, as we have the Ella-Link case just minutes ago showing. So that's why we see, if we see it as an integrated ecosystem, we can really deliver all the value the market is asking for. We can deliver all type of solutions. We can really, in each of these locations, immediately interact with the platform, immediately reach the 245 other IBXs around the world directly from each and every one of these locations. That's why,
Okay.
in my point of view.
Okay, thank you. So just setting the pace here a little bit on the data center landscape. Alfonso, can you give us a bit of an overview from your perspective, you know, how everything looks and what do you see around you?
So Carlos touched on a very interesting point, which is and how Equinix is playing out and the spread on those key locations. But you need to understand data centers have very different ways of working. So Equinix approach is much more having proximity entry points into the whole Equinix ecosystem. That doesn't necessarily mean that the bulk of capacity will be on those locations which are now deemed prime. And if you look, my background is actually power. So when I joined the data center industry a couple of years ago, I was surprised on how lacking there was of data. It's insane. It's insane. So I couldn't figure out any good information source. So we actually mapped it out. So we mapped it out, all of the capacity. We worked with several consultants and we mapped out all data center capacity that was available, very focused on the hyperscalers. And what can we see? The Mediterranean is a very small blip on the global data center capacity, very, very small blip. And then you have Europe as a whole. Of course, we're Europeans, we tend to defend Europe, but Virginia has more capacity than all of Europe put together.
Hold on. Let's think this in. Virginia
Where
has more capacity.
installed capacity
Installed
for
capacity.
data centers installed capacity than all of Europe put together.
Do we know how big Virginia is, guys? No, just look at the map.
Exactly.
But one quick question. If we are, let's say, not really relevant, if you may say so, just to throw in a curveball. Do we at least make the effort to grow, or are we shrinking in the global?
Very good question. You're asking that because I told you the answer a few minutes ago.
But not to the audience.
Not to the audience. The reality is Europe is fast, very fast losing market share. If you look at all the data center deployments across the globe, yes, there's a tremendous growth in Europe, but there's much more growth everywhere else. And Europe is losing market share. So yes, we can put an effort of putting additional small scale data centers in the Mediterranean. It doesn't mean much if everyone's growing faster. How can you overcome that? You need to understand what drove that capacity in the first place to those locations. I actually look into Equinix first building in Ashburn as an amazing lesson, an amazing case study. And I actually met the person who led that project, a fascinating person. And if you look at the basics, if you go back to basics, and if you look at large workload deployments and processing capacity, which is where I focus, again, I want to do a clear demarcation, what Equinix business model is versus mine. Then the Mediterranean needs to think of itself on how to reposition to capture those workloads. It's insane that secure workloads out of South Africa are actually processed in Ireland or the UK. It's insane. It doesn't make sense. It was insane that a lot of secure workloads out of LATAM were processed in the US, only in the US. So LA-Link bridged that gap. So now Europe can be perceived as an alternative, and Africa, which is the continent with the biggest unserved population in terms of data services, needs to have a solid partners also outside of Africa. Equinix will continue to do a superb job on getting those entry points in the ecosystem, but then where's that data processed? And they're not even talking about storage. It's actually processing. If you look into Europe, you have the Nordics and Dublin who have the lion's share. Everyone talks about FLAP, but Dublin itself has nearly as much capacity of all the other FLAP put together. And the Nordics, if you just count the official numbers, it's close. If you look deep on what's actually installed, it's multiples of that. And what is it that those have offered, which were good, was access to power, access to good connectivity. Again, I'm talking about good connectivity. I'm not talking about latency, and locations where these could be developed. And then the Mediterranean has a tremendous opportunity to do so if we play our cards right.
Okay, Aki, what's your view on the data center landscape? What do we see?
Yeah, pretty much the similar ideas or the thinking at what Afonso has. I'm also kind of maybe predicting that we're going to have a little bit even more changes in the market. I fully agree that Equinix is going to do their very good job on the proximity in the key city locations, but there's also in that part diversity also needed. I'm also kind of predicting, of course, Start Campus, you are in the coastline and easy access to the subsea cables. Virginia Beach is landing so many fiber cables as well that it's yeah.
How do you call it? Cable beach?
Yeah. But with the cable landing station, initially the issue was that they were not neutral. So the cost of getting out from the cable landing station actually gave Equinix's interactions and whoever this position to connect those important cables. But I think that is start to change a little bit because mainly because of the diversity as well. If we need more cables, they can't be like going into same conduits and so on coming out from the sea. We need diversity, and I think there is a huge potential over there. And not to mention then the hyperscale. So Microsoft is now building building 3 times 150 megawatts in Finland, their newest region. So it's massive. They don't publish the numbers, but I would estimate that to be 200 megawatts in Finland, and constantly growing. So I think we discussed a little bit earlier, touched it before we started, that yeah, it's not every data center is created equal and for equal reasons. So people want different services and offering, and they have a different needs. So there is not solution that actually could fit everyone. Majority of the enterprises, they are happy to go into these proximity data centers and so on, but then where the workloads are really done, I know Equinix has done a very good job also on the X-scale, I think you call it, and I happen to know the friend who was building that for you, Chad McCarthy, really well. But yeah, I think there's interesting changes and a lot of new opportunities are coming.
Okay, thank you. Luis.
Cross connects.
I love you, man.
That has been our crippler in Africa. When you look at the charges they offer, you don't want to go there. It's murder. It is crime. It is, I don't know how you call it, but you don't want to go there. But you have to, unfortunately. So you pay the price. We are looking now at building more and more open data centers. Barcelona being obviously an open data center. You come in, 1 fee, and you're connected. And that has been the beauty of the project. But I think Africa is moving along slowly, but surely. And until we get there, the costs of cross connects is going to be still a crippler. We know of Marseille as a major motorway or highway for data, but what we forget is that we all need to go through Suez Canal, and that is a crippler. That is a real crippler.
Oops.
Yeah. And until the guys in Egypt decide that you need to move the traffic, you need to move the data, you need to take off those cross costs, people are going to look around for workarounds. They'll bypass it, and until that time happens, and people still keep on looking, and it will happen. It will happen very, very soon, I think.
Okay. We mentioned already a little bit about, let's say, we have the normal data centers, and we have the smaller ones, and in the cities, and in the metros, let's call it like this. So Lala, if I may say it like this. I mean, you're in charge of Barcelona. So for you, what is actually the role of the Barcelona hub? And then I come to you, Emmanuel, for the Genoa.
So for us, I mean, it's an opportunity for interconnection. Barcelona, I mean, the cables at the end follow the flows of goods and of the economy. And so Barcelona also, it's a place where there's a lot of technical startups. So I think it's a good position to drive additional digital economy in Barcelona. And of course, from a pure connection point of view, it's a way to get to Madrid, get to Bordeaux, get to Paris, get to Milan in a faster way. Again, I mean, the global economy, it's creating new markets, and we have to respond to our customers' demand. I think that during most of the day, we're talking a lot about the offer, so what we can offer, and what's how this offer will evolve on the future. But really, what we need to understand is who has needs for that. And all these new connections, including Africa and including LATAM directly from Iberia, means that many companies can expand very quickly and can get to global markets. So that's what I think, that Barcelona will take more a privileged situation to take this opportunity.
Thank you, Emmanuel, for Genoa. Why the hell did you open up there, man? What are you doing there? And why?
So a lot of people ask me exactly the same thing, meaning, what are you doing? You are in Milan, Genoa. on a latency point of view, it's nothing. So why did you do that? First of all, because if you are looking at the map on how Italy was present on the subsea cable point of view, I'm not speaking about number of cable, much more speaking about traffic coming in this south part of Europe. Italy was representing less than 5% of South European traffic. If you're speaking about Lisbon, it's a very big part of South European traffic. We are speaking a lot of Marseille. Look at Lisbon. What is this part of the traffic? If you're speaking about Marseille in France, it's a very big one, yes. But if you are speaking about this South European, so Mediterranean area, Italy was very poor. But Italy instead, it's very near to one of the biggest, the big F in the flap countries, Frankfurt. On the latency point of view, we are very well present. And so we are very good in being in between these North European countries having big digital weight, and with a lot of raising traffic coming from Far East, so coming from Mumbai, India, but coming from APAC through Mumbai, through then Middle East, and then you have East African coast developing, you have South Africa developing, and then everything which is coming from South Africa to West African coast will go to Lisbon, But whatever else which is coming from East African coast, Middle East, so Far East, and then which wanted to reach F Frankfurt will have a privilege in coming through Marseille or Genoa. It was existing something in Sicily. We know in the map that we have something in Sicily, we have something in Bari or something in Crotone, so in south of Italy. But this traffic, which wasn't very interesting, and it was much more going up to Marseille. So first, a need for diversity. And secondly, just said by Lala before, it's very interesting in seeing this horizontal corridor, which is being created actually, and speaking about North European countries or East European countries, and then these new corridors coming from Far East, Middle East, and East African countries raising up actually. Wanted to have part of this inter-exchange of traffic, will have some interest in going maybe with some stopover in Genoa, Milan, but maybe much more going in stopover and going to this Milan, Genoa, Barcelona, Madrid, Lisbon. And this will become something very powerful. So yes, we trust in Genoa. When we started Genoa, it's exactly 12 months ago. Everybody was saying to me, even my boss, to be honest, was saying to me, but it will take you a long time before you will go to your business case. It was done in less than 4 months. So maybe it's a good point.
Okay, good. That's good to know. Okay. Let's talk about and focus a bit on the capacity as a whole, because
Can I do an introduction? Because I will help you on that.
I'll have a coffee now. Alfonso's taken over. Hey, trust me, after 2 sessions already, Alfonso, the floor is yours.
No, just very quickly, it's and I find it very interesting to hear you continue talking about latency and about traffic flows. And you're right on traffic flows, normal traffic flows between economies and between offices and between people, and latency could be important. And that was when I joined the industry, I got that. I said, is this the real driver of the industry? So I set out to look for it and test it. Let's test the hypothesis. And if that hypothesis was correct, I couldn't make my head around why the Nordics had so much capacity and why Dublin even existed in the first place. And one of the things that really bothered me was, if that is really, really important, then why the hell, when I do a Zoom call, I press the right corner and I see that my call is being processed in Amsterdam. If latency is that important, how come my call is being processed in Amsterdam? So it is true, latency is important for certain workflows, but it's not the major driver. And when you look in actual data center capacity, most of the traffic is within the data center itself, between and multiple large campuses, which can have multiple people. And you have a lot of them in the US, not so much in Europe. All of the traffic is contained within a certain region. And they move for power prices. They move where they can process that data cheaper. And when you're looking processing data, a workflow, a processing workflow, I mean, you can travel the world twice on a data packet before latency becomes relevant. So for heavy
Yes.
workloads, for processing workloads, yes.
So, well, yeah, I don't know where you get that information from. It's true that the most of the traffic is between the data center. That's been like that. The thing is that with all the data center modernization, with Agile, with DevOps and all that, the concept of data center has extended. So you no longer the data center is really what we used to think. So that is when interconnection is so important, and then latency is important. When the people is defining networks by software, where they are consuming services at everything as a service. And when you are talking depends very much on the business. So it's not the same if you are Netflix, or if you are a gaming, or if you are doing real-time trading. So, I mean, you are saying things that are true and false at the same time, because it will depend very much on what you're really doing. Okay, so there are situations where it's not relevant. There are situations if we think about IoT, if we think about connected cars, if we think of smart cities and more things that will come, then it will be more important. Okay? Or if you want to talk about online diagnosis, or if you want to talk of medicine that is done remotely. So there are a lot of use cases where this is relevant. So there are customers who pay for that low latency. There are others who do not care.
Okay, Carlos, and then
My
Aki.
comment goes quite in line. I believe the only comment I would make is we cannot really put all the workloads on the same basket. That's the point. That's the point. And I believe that both realities are here to stay, are needed, and we need to really to address both. So basically,
And you have that demand from your customers.
the truth is, you know that you have workloads that you can process everywhere, and you go for cost, you go for huge capacity of processing. And Afonso is right. We also have xScale really in other locations. And what we see also is that there is a premium price customers are able to pay and want to pay when they need real time. And well, I don't know if it's so true for Zoom. I believe Zoom still goes to Amsterdam because we don't have yet the conditions here to have Zoom here, but they will expand, like we are seeing the clouds going closer and closer to the user. But there are tons and tons and tons of data that can be also elsewhere in other locations. So I believe if we really evaluate the idea of, okay, this is one type of workload, this is another type of workload, the world needs solutions for both. That's for sure.
Okay, Aki, want to bump in?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, again, like the data centers, they're not equal. So same with the data. So high frequency trading is a very good example. But I think sometimes we talk a little bit too much on it because it's not so much a business. If you haven't read the book Flash Boys, I definitely recommend to do that. But be aware, I don't think you're going to do investments or trading after that one, because it's pretty scary scenarios there. Yeah, we used to spend a lot of money, especially in US, New York, Chicago, going through a mountain just to make a direct connectivity. You are pretty much a huge market leader in the data center space, providing connectivity to the HFT sector. But yeah, then it's the gaming and real-time application. But then another point to the why companies are actually processing the data in the Nordics. Of course, it's a huge amount of available energy. The second thing is it's politically and geologically very stable. Then third thing is, when building, what we have now seen, for example, in the Netherlands, There's a moratorium still going. I think it's still going on. So you can't build hyperscale data centers because the people just don't like having a data center. Interaction had an issue in Paris with the local community. They started, surprise, surprise, rioting. Who would guess in France because of the noise pollution?
No, that is a surprise.
Yes.
Striking? What?
That's why in the Nordics and this is the regarding environment as well. What if we can give actually something back to the society? If we can provide heat, of course, in Finland we use district heating, but it can be heating up the utility. It can be heating up. It's actually funny. My colleague who is now heading the data center side of things in our company, he mentioned, yeah, did you saw the news that the UK is starting to heat up pools with the data centers? I said, well, okay, that's a big news. We have done that for quite a long time. But yeah, I think that's also the key, that we need to start looking how the data center can be part of the society, because otherwise they don't like us to come there in the city centers. So.
Well, it's different because I happen to come from the Netherlands. Okay, I choose a different country now, so, but that was by choice. No, the issue in the Netherlands is that, let's say, all the discussions about the climate and sustainability and it is that it was like, yeah, but we have, they are consuming so much, energy, and now with the energy prices go up, that was where they got the people living close to the so-called hyperscalers' new buildings. Was said, well, maybe it's not a good idea. On the other hand, that while even 2-3 years before, when they were planning it, we have new jobs, it is the digitalization is coming faster, and so on and so forth. From the cooling systems, the heat which they provide the data centers will come back actually to heating up, and it's cold in the Netherlands sometimes, even like in Finland, but to heat up, let's say, all the governmental buildings or schools in a certain city. So that was actually in the Netherlands, sort of in detail a little bit the story behind when they were pro and now they're contra. So that's the thing. But talking about sustainability and when we're talking about this topic is the role of the data center. And there is actually quite a misperception actually in the market. And I think it's actually our own fault.
Can I jump on that?
Oh, that's why you're here, to jump into.
I fully agree. It is our own fault. We have been greenwashing the industry for a long time. It was actually last year, another conference, I tried to demolish the whole idea of PUE because that's just ridiculous. Especially when we went to mathematical PUE and it actually went below 1, which doesn't really make sense. Another thing here as well, so maybe a bit of a curveball to the southern Europe, but yeah, in order to reduce the PUE in a data center, even in the Central Europe, you spray water on the chillers. Well, what does that do with the environment? And luckily, there's now water usage efficiency. I think the key here, it's same what I've been trying to do with the submarine cables as well. We should actually look the CO2 tonnage. That's the kind of pretty much the simple metric, because now we are different ways on how environmentally friendly we are, and that's really greenwashing. We don't follow metrics. Now we have a new ISO standards coming in and yeah, if you report the scope 1, 2, and 3 on ESG, that's basically all you need to do.
We do that. We do POE, we do WE, we do all the metrics. And I invite you to read our sustainability report.
Like WE, just because the customers are asking for
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Otherwise, they don't make it's basically irrelevant.
Sustainability in data centers is really, sorry about my adjective, a funny topic, really, because when we start the operation here in Portugal, we select the best chillers with free cooling, with absolutely everything, because we were already worried about sustainability
and aware company-wide,
completely and really completely oriented to get the most of the efficiency in the system. In 2007, if I'm not mistaken, we start to reporting scope 1, 2, and 3. The main problem I see today is that there is not a standard to really evaluate
There you
data
go.
centers.
There you
And
go.
then when you will have a standard, you will have the standard that goes from the bottom, that is from the infrastructure perspective, and you will probably get there. I don't know if PV, water, whatever, it will be for sure some model. And then you come from the other standards coming from the IT part, meaning exactly what servers are you using? Are they the best, most efficient? The life cycle of that server is that 2 years, and in 2 years you are scrapping them. So it's really, in Equinix, we are trying to work with the European community really to make a framework of what that could be. Not only on the environmental, so on SEG, basically, on the, that's what I described. Regarding all the social responsibility and of course equity, gender in race, in all that parts that really press the digital divide, and of course also in governance. We also believe in that virtuous cycle where we as the players in the market help regulators with important and relevant inputs for them to produce the right regulation. I believe only when we give something like 2 turns on this circle, we will be able to have a framework to compare. Because even on just going for the SEG, you talk about scope 1, 2, and 3. So in 2012, if I remember well, I'm taking numbers from my head, scope 1, 2%, scope 2, 18%, scope 3, 80%. How do you control scope 3? No one knows. So it's quite hard now to say, of course, we all want green energy. We all want really to invest and make sure we are building a digital green, but it's quite hard today to do it. In our point of view in Equinix is really to work with the entire industry, with the European Data Center Association, in really creating a frame like we have done with data protection. Europe lead the way and show the world what should be done. Why can't we do it also in data centers? That was our question. And really, in our point of view, we are doing the best, of course, we can, and the best that the market has to offer in what relates with sustainability. Of course, we know everything about the topics of greenwashing and everything, but the truth is, okay, get warranties, get everything you can buy, like being certificates or being power purchases agreement. Anything you can buy in any economy, you need to assess for the quality. So basically, we are still, I believe in that area, baby steps are being done yet. I'm waiting really for the next year for the European Commission to release the first set of guidance or rules to really report on.
And that's exactly where I'm going to step in, because the thing is that next year they will come with a set of rules.
Yeah.
The standardization is not there yet, guys. Get it done, because otherwise you will not buy into, let's say, the population, the people out there living around there, whatever. They're not happy with it again. And you give, let's say, the people who are not happy with it, you give everything in their pocket to be against it. Because the contradictory thing is that, I mean, they're against whatever it is, and with the good rights, but they want to have as fast as possible on their cell phone, on their smartphone, they want to have the information. Yeah, duh. You know, I want to drive, an electric car. Yeah, but only if the fuel or the electricity is for free. It doesn't work like that, right? Yeah. So we need to find a balance, but my point is, we need to find it fast, because only then we have we can educate as well the people, and to work and to listen, because then we have a standard and we have a set of rules which are really there. And once we have that, we can go out there and say, listen, guys, this is what we have. This is what we did. Is it enough for you? Or let us know. Maybe we can work around. But if we don't show not a lot of things, and we're going to wait until the European community is coming back to us, although on the GDPR, they did a really good point, a really good thing, but it goes a bit further now. And that's where we need to hopefully, you know, and that is our role as a data center, to see it like that, to help that, to encourage it, to support that as well, and to demand as well, as fast as possible, that set of rules, standardization, whatever. That would be my take on it. But Lala, you wanted to bump in here, and then we have Alfonso, of course, bumping.
Yes.
And I know everybody wants to bump in here. You want to bump in there as well? Please do, because that's the whole purpose, guys. Come on, Lala.
So one of the things, as you were saying, is that we can't work ahead of time. So in Spain, there's not so much problem with the people yet. So for example, you mentioned Virginia. Virginia has a data center problem. So we don't want that to happen. And probably it's not what the people want. So we want really to have business that create value for the economy and also for the people who lives there. Okay, so I think it's a part also of educating the market to understand what a data center is. Okay, so many of them is where Skynet resides, and then Terminator at the end, it just destroys the data center and destroys all the machine dominated world. Okay, and so we don't want that people think like that. So we have been ahead of that as a company, and we are very committed, because apart from how you measure what are the regulations behind, there has to be a really commitment to be as efficient as
Don't
possible.
blame the regulator. We did it already
Yeah,
the
yeah.
whole day. So
But there they are, and sometimes help, because if you are already have this identified the problem and work ahead of time, when they regulate, you are already there and you have an advantage. But other than that, what we've done, for example, with PPAs in Spain, in Equinix, we already are delivering more green energy into the grid than what we are consuming today. So we have long-term PPAs, and we are really an active agent to the energy transition, which is something that really is really strong. And so if you understand what the role can be, all of us to work on that and work together, not with regulators, but really with the public servants and understanding with the rest of an ecosystem, it's been a word that has been talked during the time. But if you think of that and the ecosystem, it's not only what we see now, I see the infrastructure. It's also about the service providers. It's also about the companies that develop software, that deliver contents. I mean, if we think of all of them, and we think we are in a position to really do the things in a more sustainable way. And sustainable, what does it mean? That it has to be efficient. And already there's a lot of companies, when they think of ESG, it's not only ESG, they think, do we really need big data? I mean, just collect anything that comes to us and then think what we will do with that? Probably it's not the best idea. So they're starting even to think what is the right use of the technology. And again, if we think now of ChatGPT, it's, can we use that in our daily life at scale? How much computer power and how much will this require for just to having a service that just creates a joke for you that's not even funny, you know? So that's part of the things that we can also reflect when we see these problems ahead. So again, talking about the demand, so what you need that, and how we can make sure that the resources that we have that are still scarce, not only because needs to be developed, but what we have also been discussing, that there are some raw materials that are scarce. There are some shortages in the supply chain. So we have some restrictions in the capacity. And so it's important that also we start the conversation to see what is really needed to progress as a humankind.
okay. Anybody else want to bump in here?
No, you mentioned about the EU is coming back to us on the standards and so on, but we now can't remember. I was trying to look what is the ISO number, but there is now an ISO standard that describes how environmentally, how you should build data center in an environmentally safe way. So we don't actually need to wait for EU and going back to the regulations. So yeah, in best case, the industry should be self-regulating. But if we can't do that, then of course the regulator has to step in. And that's when they become what you might call nasty, but
So you said exactly the word I was hoping someone would say, which is self-regulating. Because I've been on similar panels in the US side, and it's funny to see the US versus European mentality. Very, very different. Because when you speak with US players, they're all saying, no, we always self-regulated. Why aren't we now going to be imposed? And
Yeah,
it
sure.
becomes a big issue. They're very worried about it, very, very worried about it. And to Equinix is actually doing a great job on ESG reporting and the way they're doing things. But they're an exception. They are an exception. The industry has a tremendous lack of transparency. People don't know what a data center is, don't know what resources are going to take. And if you don't improve the governance side with more transparency, Google did an amazing job to show that they do not consume that much water. They were being accused of drying in the US, and then they published a report saying, guys, we consume as much as 9 golf courses.
By the way, when you're playing golf again, right?
Exactly. So, but we need more of those. We need more transparency. We need to show what the data center industry is capable of and is actually doing. And I will add another thing. If the data center industry does not go there, it will be regulated. The regulator will take action.
Well, will there be a bit more self-regulation in the US when we just triple the power price in the US? Then we start thinking maybe self-regulation.
No, not yet.
Where?
No, that doesn't work.
Forget about it.
That doesn't work. That doesn't work. But
Oh, no.
but surprise, surprise, all potential clients, US driven, they all have very stringent ESG requirements to us.
Go to California.
Exactly.
Go to California, guys.
Exactly. Now, the problem with regulation is that it can be too prescriptive.
Not you, No. It's not Anacoma, guys. No.
And a regulation that it's not outcome driven may have wrong consequences. There's a common theme also on the EU framework where at the given point it was on the table that every data center would have to use excess heat to district heating. So that's idiotic. There's no such concept in the Southern Europe as district heating. So if you say they should seek out ways to use excess heat, that's a completely different story. So don't be too prescriptive. If it is outcome based, you can actually foster innovation and you actually drive the ESG agenda faster.
Okay. Manuel?
We all spoke about the fact that we have finger pointing on our industry, meaning what are we doing, what can we do better, and how do we have to improve this for sustainability. But instead, I'm much more thinking about, as said by Lana, our customers. So our customer is ourselves, you, me, all of us. So first of all, we want to put a lot of things on cloud. On the cloud providers, they need to do 2-pod, 3-pod, some of them. So free time, same storage, same computing, same things. Do we want to consume less energy? Do we accept to have some issue if something is missing, is lacking? And then I'm hearing a lot of people saying, oh, tier 4 is the best data center existing. Yeah. Tier 4, that means 2N. Do you want to consume 2 times energy needed to run your data? Do you want to do that? Is it a good idea? And then if you are looking for other way in using my data, Lala was saying this before, meaning your car actually is able to store on a daily basis up to 1 terabyte of data. Do you need this? So if you are looking to deploy a NEDA system, so autonomous driving system, yes, you need to do this, but 1 terabyte of data on a daily basis, just to see if Carlos is driving better than me on the Lisbon street.
Is he, by the way?
He will. He's better than me.
Yeah. Okay,
But,
so we know. Yes.
So obviously, main part of sustainability of power consumption is coming from consumer and providers. And so on our part, we are very efficient. Whatever we are doing, we are reducing it on a monthly basis. Each month, we are reducing what we are doing, all of us in this sector. But you are investing hundreds of millions in any countries to do that, all of us together. But customers' point of view, if you're thinking for, did you improve, when was it the last time you improved your app, meaning your systems, which is running? When was it last time? You know, some app running on systems was designed 20 years ago when energy was costing nothing, when that system wasn't an issue. A bank asks to your customer as a bank, when is your last time you made a reprojecting of your app? Maybe it will be 20, 25 years ago. Maybe it's still running on COBOL. Is it good to run on COBOL? Much more interesting in this.
No, but okay. You're making your point, and I can also say, how many of you is in your history of your emails? How many emails are in your history? You know, so we can have a lot of self-reflecting, but from a marketing point of view, to buy into the consumer, it is difficult to say, listen, what are you doing to help us? Because actually we are just here to serve you. It doesn't work anymore. We data centers, we need to make the extra step to let the consumer, the end consumer, by the end of the day, understand that we, first of all, do value their worries, that we do understand what kind of values they have, right or wrong, or misunderstood or not, but we need to help them and make the extra effort to make sure that we buy in, because by the end of the day, if we don't buy in, it will always be the data center fault, right? Look at the power grid, look how much they're using. It's their responsibility, it's their fault. No, it's not, but it's our job to explain it and to, as you mentioned as well, and many times, to educate and to bring that message.
This is your job to do that, but if we just gain on final customer 1% of gain, this is like gaining 50% for us. The same thing. 1% for them, it's 50% for us. So gaining 50% for us, we did it in 10 years. Gaining 1% of customers, they didn't even did it in 10 years.
No, but we understand this. But the people out there, they don't understand. Diggly, nothing about it. And
They don't understand the energy with energy companies as well. So this is another thing. I think now with the energy crisis in Europe, what really taught us is that yet people really don't know how to consume energy either. So we are wasting so much energy, and again, it's the job. The energy companies like we have in Finland, where they started doing these campaigns on how to actually reduce energy. It's all about education.
Well, on energy side,
You're the power guy here.
yeah, for the data center industry, there's a tremendous opportunity to play.
Yep.
Because it's something that it's not common knowledge, but the power systems are undergoing a tremendous transformation, and most of the power operators, they're used to steady things, and what's coming, it's scary. It's very, very scary. What's happening in California, it's just a glimpse of what will happen all over Europe. And the data center industry actually has an amazing opportunity to take advantage of. Because by being large consumers of power and by managing that power all together, you can actually play and give a service to the community to help stabilize the grid. But very few are thinking like that, but it's a tremendous opportunity for the industry.
Okay, thank you. Closing round, guys. Closing round, because we're getting to the end. We're talking about the role of the data centers and to meet the demand in the Mediterranean and African region, and how we should behave, what we should do. So what is our role? And, and to segment it a little bit. And this is what we try to do, together with the panelists here on stage for you. So scoping a little bit the future, what's there to expect? How does telco look, let's say in 5 years? Do we need to work on our on our offerings? What do we need to do? Do we need more help from the regulator, from governments? Do they get in, or should they get the hell out of there? How do you see, let's say, the future? And maybe Carlos, if I can start with you, let's say, as well as what is the role of the data center here? Because that's the topic actually in the Med and in the African region. And how can we play a role in that one? And what's the field? What's there to expect? What should we do?
Okay, so basically to close the former topic and to bring it back once again to this geography on sustainability. So we are on the right place about renewals. So that's good news for all of us. In what relates with the capacity and the role of the data centers, it goes end by end with the subsea cables, that's for sure. And we will see it more and more, and we will see it more in the future. I believe there were some pieces missing on the geography that are being putting together in order to serve all segments, give all the capacity, really promote the capacity and the terrestrial networks that exist. So we are on the right way. In my point of view, we need to accelerate because the opportunity is really now.
Because the moment is now, as you said.
Like I said, if you look at the cables that are planned for the next years, you see now you are under pure boom. So it's now. And this capacity with a lifespan of 20 years, what we could, anything you may do now will influence what will happen for us during the next 20 years. So it's a huge responsibility we all have in our backs. That is one point. The second point, the role of the data center itself, and taking a little bit and the way they will address, I'm like, well, Afonso was saying the revolution that goes on power. I should say, I can't imagine the revolution that we are having ahead on the data center industry, you know, because the truth is, with new densities, with high processing, with so many new variables that will need to be addressed, new products, cooling liquid to liquid, taking to higher capacities. I believe the scale of itself can change during those periods, those future requirements and demands. There are quite disruptive technologies. We just announced now in Equinix that in Tokyo 11 will be able to deliver quantum computing as a service for the world, and it's not science fiction. It's this year.
Quantum computing
as a service.
As a service.
As a service. We just announced it last week.
Okay.
So can you imagine what that does with data centers? I can't. And I'm living there for 20 years. So I leave it open with I hope a bright future. I'm like the Monty Python, always look to the bright side of life. But the truth is we have so many.
Thank you. Now I have the whole evening that song in my head. Together. Always look on the bright side of.
So
I shouldn't sing. You're right.
Exciting future ahead on the data centers and on the cable landing system, and for sure on the region, no doubt about it. You know, we are in a quite interesting location to be
and well positioned
in this moment of the wave. You know,
okay.
So I would leave it there.
Okay, Lala, closing words.
Yes. So there is a lot of plans that say that Madrid will become the digital hub of South Europe. And there's a lot of investments arriving and landing into Madrid, both from hyperscalers and also data centers. I can see some of them might be a bit opportunistic, so let's see how this will go. But what the reality is that really together with Lisbon, with also Italy, we will grow a lot. You have said this computing quantum computing company, they are a British company. So, but they have, with companies such as the data centers as Equinix, they can land in other countries very quickly without big investments. So this is really what all these corridors and all these interconnection is facilitating, so that companies in our regions can also do business, not only that we are importing and the Netflix and the Twitters and all that to land in our countries, but we can also export our goods. And I think that's something that we will see. And again, I think that will change a lot, because if you look at how a quantum computer is, I mean, the form factor has nothing to do with the traditional racks that we are used to. So this also will mean that we will have to be ahead of what the really technology transition goes to.
Emmanuel, what should we look out for?
So I will focus again on Mediterranean area. As I'm feeling that we are just starting this curve. You love speaking about curve, and I'm thinking we're just the beginning of this curve. If we are thinking coming back 10 years ago, we are speaking a lot of these northern countries in Europe, at least, deploying a lot of digital capacities. And digital capacities, as said before, serving a lot of countries around it. So 4 countries mainly, or 4 cities mainly, serving something like 27, 30 countries. Now we are seeing at European point of view, and even if I'm looking at MEA point of view, we are speaking about 10 countries, but delivering to 1/3 of global population. So what we are looking for here in Europe and here around Mediterranean area is being able to deliver services, so digital services, obviously, thanks to few locations, but giving access in and out to 1/3 of the human population. So more than 3.4 billion people, actually 3.4 billion people. It's growing 50 million a month, as you know. So it's quite growing quickly. So this is what we are doing. And so what I'm seeing, being in between this fast growing population, so population, GDP growing, that means digital weight growing. And so what I'm feeling is that we will not be able to deliver whatever will be needed. This is why these countries will grow on digital. This is why we will grow on digital. This is why northern countries will continue to grow, whatever will continue to grow. And this is why we need to take care about this sustainability point, because it will become very important. It is already, but it will become much more later on. Because if you are thinking about sustainability, water usage effectiveness in our country, it's a point. In some countries, water, it's life. It's not for you, water, maybe you will like a shower once a week and you will survive of this. For someone, they don't even have a shower a week. So it will have some impact.
Okay, merci. Luis, what is your takeaway for the audience?
The European Commission has entrusted Medusa to deliver connectivity to the various university networks. Now we're talking terabits. So it's a growth that, again, we had not envisaged, but as said, it's now coming on the table. We have a second also project announced last week that we are now replicating the services that we have in Barcelona, now in Alicante, a data center in Alicante with a landing station in Alicante. So these are, again, also the things that are growing and growing. So in the end of the day, it's demand that is building the requirements and for the future. There's no end to it. That's what I say.
C'est ça.
Voilà.
Voilà. Alfonso, what's your takeaway?
I liked Carlos' analogy of the wave. And if you think about the wave, we're now at that point where you see the water is drawing because something big is coming. Something very, very big is coming. And when you look into the Mediterranean, you guys have done a great job in Barcelona we need much more capacity, but we also need on the subsea systems, but we also need much more data center capacity available to serve Africa, to serve LATAM, to serve as potential backup to some systems in the US, to drive out some of the workloads out of Ireland, given issues that we're already seeing, to serve as a redundancy to the Nordics, given their proximity to Russia, and to make a much more stable system. So there's a big wave coming. And are we ready? Are we going to hide, or are we going to jump into the surfboard?
Hey, I'll be redundant. I'll take 2 surfboards. I'm on that wave. Aren't we on that wave, right? We should. Aki, your last famous words.
It's late, so I'm gonna be quick. We used to say location, location, location. So I say diversity, diversity, diversity.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for staying up so late with us. But not finishing yet. But first of all, I would like to thank Lala. Thank you, Emmanuel, Carlos, Equinix, of course, for sponsoring this session. Luis, always, thank you so much, my friend. Alfonso, fantastic and honored having you here and giving us your thoughts and sometimes a curveball from you in this panel session. So thank you so much. Aki, your helicopter view is always valuable, and really happy to have you always on my panels. Again, guys, thank you so much. This was day 1. Ooh.